And we are live. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for episode number 4 of Florida Live. Tonight's episode is going to be all about the housing market and all the changes that are happening. We've got inventory that are going up. We've got sales that are kind of dropping. People are asking where prices are at, and hopefully we'll be able to cover all of that here this evening. If this is your first time tuning in, my name's Eric Larkin. I'm a real estate agent here in Cocoa Beach. And besides doing videos like this, I help people buy and sell real estate here in the Cocoa Beach area. So if you are planning a move, let me know how I can help. And here on the broadcast, joining me, we've got Hector Chinea from Miami. We have Michele Bellisari from Boca Raton and Aimee Burroughs from Palm Beach. And soon to be popping in too, I have a lender friend, Tim Har, who's going to be talking a little bit about what's happening in the mortgage industry. So how's everybody doing today?
Great. How are you guys?
We are good. Dealing with the heat in Florida.
Oh.
Holy cow.
Michele, I thought of you when we got in the car today and Sienna took a picture of it. And you know how yours said 103 degrees?
I know.
But guess what ours said? 105.
I'm not surprised.
105.
Cray, but thank you, Mr. Carrier, for creating air conditioning.
I heard that. So is he who created it, Carrier?
I think so. Don't quote me.
Right?
All right. So you coming back.
We don't have, so you guys can gauge this, we don't have AC in our gym.
Nope. We don't either.
No.
Well, that'll get you dedicated.
Hector knows.
Yep.
So that you've got to be dedicated to work out there, especially if it's this late in the day. I hope they have the big industrial fans. Is it like CrossFit or is it just okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are no fans.
There is nothing.
I'm a fan of you guys.
There's just the junkies that like going to CrossFit.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Tim just popped in. Quick introduction to him. Tim Har is a lender with Finance of America. So I've been working with him and his company for almost 20 years now. And since there are, we're going to be talking about the housing market, what's happening here, and the mortgage industry definitely is a big impact of what's happening. And he's got some news of things that's happening with the mortgage industry too. So welcome back.
Thank you.
That's
Hi,
awesome.
Tim.
How you guys doing? Nice to meet you all.
Hi, Tim.
Virtually.
All right. So just really quick to get a tone of what's happening with housing markets here. Over under, how's inventory looking in y'all's area? Whoever would like to start, give us an idea of where your inventory's at and where you anticipate seeing things going.
Hector, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have what I have seen is our price decrease has doubled month over month. We're at 318 price decreases. Back on the market, we're at 181. New to market, 473. And all those numbers were way down just 12 months ago. So it's really interesting how we're starting to see the markers that tell us that, there's definitely a shift going on, especially with the price decreases, guys. That's where I'm seeing the biggest movement right now.
Yep.
So how many drops in prices did you say you had? Was this just in the Miami area?
Just in the Miami Association of Realtors, basically what I'm looking at here is 318 price decreases in the last month.
Wow.
So that tells me that there's definitely a shift going on. People are starting to notice that you can want to get, the best money for your home, but at the end of the day, if the numbers aren't there, then you have to decrease and you're kind of chasing the market, which is something we don't like to do.
Yep.
But it is a reality now. Aimee, how are things in Palm Beach?
So, okay, really similar, but if these sellers have a good agent like us, right, and listen to us to price it at market value, you're still going to get over asking. I just had one of my listings go up and over asking because we priced it right? So price it aggressively, and it's not pricing it under market value. It's pricing it at what the market looks like today. So taking that into consideration, and my seller was fantastic. I said, look, we can price it up here to where it was, 6 months ago, but you're going to end up dropping the number all the way down here, or we can price it here and go up to here, which now there's that gap. And she listened to me, and out the door, we got multiple offers on it. So those are still happening as long as the sellers listen, and they're still going to get a fantastic price for their home. They all have equity in their home still, and they're going to get a fantastic offer for it. So, but yes, definitely seeing those price decreases, and only because they were listing them too high out the gate.
Yep.
That's it.
Totally agree.
Pretty much the same. Yeah, exactly. I'm getting
Kate, in less than a week I had multiple offers and under contract in less than a week.
Fantastic.
Right. Congrats.
So what's up in Boca Raton, Michele?
Oh, we're seeing inventory levels go up, and we are definitely seeing price reductions happening. So pretty much on trend with, what Hector and Aimee are saying. I look to see the difference in the inventory. I had checked at the very end of June, and in Boca we had 1,047 properties on the market, and now as of today we have 1,112 properties.
Wow.
So we're definitely trending up on that. To Aimee's point, I had a conversation with someone today. I have a listing appointment earlier this week, crunched some numbers, and they threw out a number, and then I drilled down big time, and I'm like, here's where I really think you need to be. That's not your number. You do not want to be sitting on the market for a long period of time. So if we don't get any offers within this time frame, you need to lower the price of this home. Let's not play this game. Your goal is to sell the house. My goal is to sell the house. It's not to have the house hang out on the market.
Yep.
And hope.
Michele, do you have a special day time frame? I know that I have a time on the market when I tell my clients. Do you guys have something like that? And mine's pretty spot on every single time. I'm curious.
What do you mean by time on the market?
Yeah, so
if you do the reduction.
If my property sits on the market if that 11th day comes up, if the 11th day comes up and we haven't had any action or talk about a contract, that's my special number to then have a discussion. And I have this going into the listing presentation that we sit down and discuss this, and then we do it my way.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And 2 weeks is a good barometer for that.
We discuss it and we go, okay, we tried it at this. It's not going to work, but we're going to go back to the other scenario.
Exactly.
But that was pre-COVID too.
Yep.
Right. So that's where that number was pre-COVID. And now it's circled back around to that 11 days. So sorry to interrupt, but
it's all good.
That's
totally
good.
So really quick, what's happening here in Brevard County, Cocoa Beach, pretty similar things. Inventory is climbing. I think we could all say that. And we had a comment, which I'll dig into to find, but they were asking how many price reductions are we having? And I don't really look at that very often, but I was surprised to see for June, we had over 800 price reductions here in our local MLS. And so I went back and dug in just to see where things are at. Last June, there was just over 500. But when I looked at year to date, January through the end of June, there's actually more reductions in price last year than what we're dealing with here, just to kind of look at the bigger picture to see where the trends are going and have been coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely the price changes with the listing agent is important. Have that conversation up front, and things like this will certainly help sellers once they tune in too. What's up, Hector?
Do you think, Eric, it's more because people are pricing it right, or do you think it's more because people are just paying what is being asked for the property?
Well, I think the price reductions that we're having now is because sellers have been able, the first 3 months of the year and all of last year, if homes are selling for $300,000, we'll just say in a community, they could price theirs at 325 and they'll get multiple offers and it'll end up selling 345 or 350. So they're still keeping that I'm going to stretch the market kind of mentality. And May was when things really started tapping the brakes with the inventory going up. And June definitely was an indication with all the price changes that we're having, which, kind of tapping the brakes with things that are happening. Tim, how are things going in the mortgage industry in regards to like new applications that you're getting in for people buying homes versus 3 or 4 months ago? What kind of trends are you seeing with lending?
Right. So we just had a corporate meeting, and my company has, for the last year, has been talking about the shift. I'm like, what the hell is the shift? Well, now we know what it is, but they were ahead of the game. So just to give you real numbers, so last year in the month of June, our company did $3 billion in mortgages, closed mortgages. This year, we did 600 million. So that's 1/5 of what we did last year. Now,
holy cow,
you got to take out refinances because refinances went away, but it's still real numbers. But the purchase market didn't take a dump as bad as the whole market did. So I don't want to be fear based at all because you still have 30% of the people that are buying with cash still, and then so 40% of the people went away because the rates are too high to refinance. So as purchases go, I think we're still fine. You're going to see a softening of the market. You guys are going to see, and everything's going to be fear-based from the media, but you're going to see lenders start toppling. We've already had 2 go in the last week. I literally had my own deal. I was closing in Titusville. The guy was selling his house in South Carolina. He was supposed to close on that house on the 5th of July, and we closed the 6th here. And they started calling me going, hey, we're not getting the wire through on the closing of his house in South Carolina. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. So last time I heard that was in 2009, and it was the lender went on. It wasn't our lender. We were doing the purchase on his house in Florida, but you're going to start seeing some of the smaller lenders start toppling. So Sprout Mortgage fell, and what's the name of First Guarantee out of Texas, which was a smaller lender, but you're going to see more of them start toppling a little bit. So just be as. And the other thing I want to comment, what you guys say, I want to agree with, because I've been doing this for 25 years. Now's the time that you guys, your expertise comes in play, because the last 2 years you could be a realtor that just listed and not know a whole lot about real estate, and you still got business. Now you got those people need to go back to their other jobs, and the professionals need to stick to what they do and get ahead of the wave, because like you guys are talking about, so that's smart advice. Like if you got 100 houses listed at 600,000 and you list yours at 585, and there's only in your house is bet, you're going to get the deal. So all good stuff. So we weather through the storm. I don't think we're going to see. It's not like 2009, because it's different now, because everyone was qualified to buy a house. Everybody. I mean, I put people through hell buying houses with documentation. So it's not going to be like that. You're going to see it level out. And I don't think you're going to see a negative. It's going to be negative compared to last year, but you're still going to see a positive growth in equity and stuff along the way. I don't. There's too many people buying houses, and numbers I see, you could take half the people away that are buying houses, and we'd still have a pretty good seller's market.
Yep, I have to agree with that. Really quick, we've got somebody tuning in, friends of ours from Macon, Georgia. Misha, he's a real estate agent up there, or Warner Robins, actually. Our German friend, thanks for tuning in, man.
Thank you.
Oh, so a trend I did notice, because I know 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when appraisals were happening, it's like it was a crapshoot. You didn't know really where they were going to come in at. More often than not, if they didn't hit the contract price, they were coming in low. Had 3 appraisals come in this month, all like $8,000 to $10,000 or higher over the list price. So that's another indication we got some trends that are happening and some changes, because the sales are finally catching up to, or the value is finally catching up where the sales are at, and all three of those appraisals came in higher than where they should have been, which I'm happy for. And so are the buyers.
Awesome. That's so great.
Let's see. So we've already talked about
guys,
some.
I will tell you a sign on that. The last time that happened, though, you saw, because appraisals are 3 months behind anyway, and so it's peaking out now. And so, like you guys are talking about, that your clients, your sellers are having to come to grips with you guys telling them that, hey, that house might have appraised for $450 down the street, but the market's a little different now. And so that's where your sales ability comes in to, Eric just run into one. You were telling me the story the other day of a past client that, once you let the cat out of the bag with this number, and then they call you back 2 weeks later, it's a little lower. Trust me, I deal with numbers all the time with interest rates. Oh, it was 3, but now it's 5. It's a really awkward conversation to have. But that's where it comes in, where you guys get ahead of the game and let them know, and and not let them listen to some, not very good realtor down the street tell them they should list it for $500 when it's only worth $400,000.
Yep. Just buying that listing. So besides price, what are some things we can talk to our sellers about to help them get their property sold?
Say that again. I lost.
I said besides price, because we've been talking about price. What kind of conversations are you having with your sellers now in order to help them get their property sold?
Well, I think it's so important that sellers always, no matter what market, rely on basics. Declutter. And that means declutter everything. Get rid of your crap. I'm real brutal about that. Just get rid of it. Okay. Clean out your closets. Clean out under your cabinets. Get rid of anything that's going to be smelly. Don't cook fish in your house while you're trying to sell it. My husband is a fisherman. I say that with love. Please do not cook smelly food. If you have animals, figure out what to do with cat litter boxes and dog smells and whatnot. I always recommend having professional cleaning. Nobody cleans a house better than a professional cleaning company. Do some touch-ups. Your curb appeal is so important. Go outside, look at it with a critical eye. What do you need to do? I have a video on my YouTube channel, and I think it's like I spent $125 or something like that. And I got plants and mulch and did some stuff in my own yard. And I used that as an example of how quickly and simple you can do that sort of thing. Your backyard, get rid of the old stuff out there. Get rid of the old patio furniture, the old pots, anything that you're not using, get rid of it. Know when your bulk day is. Plan ahead, get that stuff out in the curb. Trust me, half will be gone before bulk even picks it up. If you need a fresh coat of paint in the house, that's probably one of the least expensive things that you can do on the interior is that piece of it. But I'm telling you, just having a clean palette of a home when somebody walks in makes all the difference in the world. That also includes furniture. So look at your furniture. What aren't you using? What's old? What's dated? What's smelly? What can you get rid of? And if you think you need a couple pieces, hit up your local thrift stores. Great way to give back. At the same time, you can always hit up a Simon store, and you can pick up a few key pieces and also move furniture around. You want 100%. Your rooms to be as big and spacious as possible. That is huge. And I think because it was so easy to sell your home the last 18 months, sellers are like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to worry about that. Nobody cares about that smell. Nobody cares about how my yard looks. Yeah, they do now.
Right. I agree. I mean, they should. I agree with everything. I agree with everything Michele said. A little bit of paint goes a long way. It's one of the easiest things you can do. Decluttering is very important, and depersonalizing is important as well. The trend for a while was everybody would say, well, I'm going to put this saying on the wall. And some of that stuff, people would put up things that were religious or were kind of personal. So I always say, look, go ahead and take it off. let's try to make it attractive for everyone and not just for one specific buyer. We're looking for a pool of buyers. We're not looking for one specific buyer.
And in our chat, I always believe that you should get a storage unit to empty your house so that it does seem bigger. And Michele had put in the comments, don't get a pod. So if you do get a real storage unit, or if you do use a pod, get it off your property.
I agree. I mean, these companies will come out, pick it up, and move it for you. I mean, you say, hey, X day at X time. If you're going to have your open house on a Saturday, don't wait until Friday because anything can happen. Set up that pod for a pickup on a Thursday. That way you give yourself some time and make sure nothing goes wrong.
100%. You're going to have to pack it up anyways.
Correct.
Right.
Do it before the photographer shows up.
100%.
That's right.
Now, here's the good news. If God forbid it's still there, box brownie is our little secret weapon to have things removed.
It's worth $20.
But disclose that it may be there.
And really quick, for those of you who are watching at home, if you could drop in the comments where you're watching from, that would certainly be appreciated. And if you are watching it on the replay, let us know that you're watching on the replay, where you might be watching it from too. And of course, any questions you have, we'll be more than happy to answer here during the show or afterwards in the comments. Let's see. So what about buyers? Right now, buyers are getting a little cocky. What are because as they should, because the market has changed, they have a little more leverage in regards to negotiating skills and things like that. Maybe additional time for the contingencies. What are some things that you are either recommending to your buyers or seeing buyers doing?
I'm seeing concessions, guys.
Yep.
I'm seeing that and they're able to get it too because buyers aren't willing to pay what they were paying 3 months ago. So you still have those comps that are there, like Tim was talking about, and that Eric, you were talking about how your buyers were, the appraisals were coming in higher.
Yep.
And so that being said, those buyers, they've got that, it's incredible. They've got that leverage, and some are using it to buy their points down, but then a lot of lenders are saying, don't do that because down the road, you're going to be able to refinance. So just, use that for your closing costs or whatnot. So there's a couple of different things there.
Excellent. And we got Joanne tuning in from Port St. John's. Tim, you might know Joanne. She's a local realtor here with Remax Solutions, I believe is who she's with. And then I think we all know Caitlin, or at least Aimee does.
I know Caitlin.
Girl.
We all know her. But I'm glad you brought up the points. Tim, what are you seeing in regards to points or recommendations for buyers as they're getting their loans? Are they paying a lot for the points to lower the rates, or what are some of the recommendations or things that you're doing with that?
Right. So a lot of loans, there's no choice. I mean, I shouldn't say that. So you got to think about, from my standpoint, I got to qualify people. So you can pay 5.5 with 2 points, or you're paying 6.5 with, a half a point, but they don't qualify at 6.5. So you gotta pay the point. So basically what's going on with the market right now is a thing called compression, and I won't let your eyes glaze over, but it's exactly what Aimee said. It's the lenders are saying don't pay the points because they're feeling like down the road rates will go down and we can refinance you. That's a little presumptive, but it's okay. But right now, so think about this. So the lenders sell loans off to people that buy investors that buy mortgage-backed securities. Those guys, the mortgage-backed security guys that buy these loans, pay for them, and then they're hedging that rates are going to go down too. Mm-hmm. So if you pay for something and you run a table and go, hey, we need to keep this thing for 5 years to make money, but you think rates are going to go down, then they're making you pay up front so they don't lose money. So you're going to see for a while people having to pay points or higher rates to qualify. Now, the other thing that you said that I agree with as far as listing and you guys is to give you some insight. So as you're listing properties, that's another thing. You're gonna appeal to more people if you're able to pay closing costs or help the seller or the buyer out, because there's a whole segment of the population that has been out of the market for the last 2 years because they don't have enough money to put down and pay the closing costs. And so now if the sellers are willing to do that, you guys are going to get 20 to 30% more people available to be able to buy houses now. So just keep that in mind when, you can still list it for that, but they're willing to pay closing costs. You're gonna attract a lot more buyers.
Yep.
And we are definitely seeing that again in regards to some buyers' offers. The sellers are agreeing to those closing costs. Let's see, we've got a couple questions from previous shows. Let's see if I can get them on there. I can't read that. My hunch is that none of you deal with low-end buyers. Oh, yeah. So this person here was talking about low-end buyers and where the interest rates are. What do you see with folks who are like first-time buyers or maybe at the lower price point? What can we do to help them get into properties?
Right. So are you talking to me?
I'm talking to everybody.
Okay.
So who wants to jump in first?
Tim, why don't you jump in, and then I would like to follow because I have millennials.
Right. So here's the low end market, which by the way used to be like I had 20% of my loans were first time home buyers at the lower end market because I love those buyers because they're loyal. They come back to you, years and they always upgrade. They're young, but they've been priced out of the market, and it's unfortunate they just haven't been able to buy anything because the prices are too high. And then when rates went up, then they don't qualify for as much. Sellers aren't willing, to go in and buy a $250,000 house. I used to be able to do it with little money down. Sellers pay the closing costs. Now they have to come up with 25 grand. Most of the first time home buyers don't have that. But with this happening now, with the market softening, I think it should come back. And like I've told you guys as listing agents to keep that in mind, you're going to open up a whole plethora of the market. Now, the lower end stuff, like if you're talking lower end price range, that has nothing to do with the loans. It's just there's no houses at that price
that are financeable.
Right. So it has nothing to do with financing at that point. It's all about the housing market. So, but it's coming back their direction. So what I'd say to the question was, be patient.
Yeah.
It might come into it.
So I wanted to share my screen because I pulled something from Florida Association of Realtors. Let me see if I can find the window that I'm looking for here. If it lets me do that.
As soon as I see it, put it up there. There you go.
Can you see what I'm looking at?
What do 2022 buy? Oh, not anymore. There you go.
There you go. Sorry. What do 2022 buyers want in a new home? This is from FAR in May. I think this is really important. It's from the National Association of Home Builders. And I want you guys to scroll down just a little bit and look at buyers by generation.
All right, you got to scroll, Michelle.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Can you see?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So I think this is very interesting. I'm not surprised. When I went to Agent 2021 in 2019, the big Gary V event down at Hard Rock Stadium, which I still refer to as the house that Joe built, Joe Robbie, they had a millennial panel. And I think one of the problems is that realtors don't know how to deal with millennials. They don't know how to deal with the younger buyer. They don't understand what they want or like. I came home and I interviewed Allie and her friends. And I said, talk to me about buying property. So this was in 2019, right? And she's 27 now. And so almost everything they're saying here is what they talked about. And the other thing is a lot of them have pets, which, a lot of these developments have not caught up with the people like to have animals. It's healthy for us. It's good for our mental health, but here we are. And so a few things that come to mind for me when I am thinking about first-time home buyers. When I came into the market back in 2003, I ended up working quite a bit with first-time home buyers and doing first-time home buyer webinars, or not webinars, but seminars. And some things bubble up. Families can gift, and I'm going to go back here. I'm going to get out of this. There is the opportunity to be able to gift, right, Tim?
Yes, absolutely.
doesn't come up enough. There are families that don't mind helping. And I don't know if it has to be exclusively a family member anymore. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's one.
It doesn't.
Option. Another option is being able to tap into your 401k and utilize money towards a down payment. I believe that's still something that people can tap into, especially if I think if it's their first home. There are down payment assistance programs like the SHIP and the state programs. The thing with them is sometimes they can get a little convoluted and you have to get the buy-in on the other side. And if you have an agent that really doesn't get it, you're not going to get that done. But the other thing is, as I've said to my girls, you're going to have to lower your expectations. Mm-hmm. The goal is to get a piece of real estate, not the perfect piece of real estate. Mm-hmm. Right. So that means you have to get a 1-1 condo just to get in the game. Yep. Then damn it, do that. Yep. Don't worry about the single family home right now because it's probably out of your reach along with so many other people. Yep. But let's think smaller so you can get into the game and then use that equity to move up. And that's exactly my take on this market. It's like, okay, so I sold one of Kylie's friends a condo in 2020. We closed at the very end of March. And we know what was going on in March of 2020, right? Right. We didn't know what was going on. Her equity from that little condo that she bought 1-1 for $175 on the Hillsborough River in Deerfield Beach, by the way. It's probably got over $100,000 of equity in it. Okay. Now that's of course because of the market conditions that we've been dealing with, which are extraordinary. But my point is, you can still find small things, put some sweat equity into it. Right. And also too, Tim, talk to us about when there's too many renters in a development, how that affects somebody trying to get a loan, because that's what we were almost up against. And we figured out it was okay. But if one more person owned a property in this condo, that loan was not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. What, Michele, what kind of loan was she getting? Do you remember?
Conventional.
Okay. I haven't run into the renters versus owners in a while. I run into occasion with FHA, but not conventional. And I don't know if it's because the lender you're using had maybe an overlay or something, but I don't run into it. It used to be a big issue, but how much did she end up putting down?
Well, I think she was putting down a smaller down payment, so it was going to have a full condo review.
Right. Mm-hmm. So usually,
and that's the conversations that we have to have with these buyers, so they understand like why they may not be able to see certain properties, or they can see them, but they may not be able to do anything. Yeah.
Right. So 5% down. I don't know every scenario because every condo is different, and so the first thing I do when you're looking, I go ahead, get it under contract, and the first thing I do is I get the condo questionnaire. And I get it submitted to my condo department, and they make it go away. If you're concerned about it, and I ask Eric questions too, like because I'm usually dealing with his buyers or whoever I'm dealing with, and go, have they closed conventional loans in there before? It's usually not the occupancy point. It's usually the condo questionnaire. It's the budget.
Oh, yeah, wow.
But the occupancy doesn't normally scare me very much. So,
but what about, I believe Michele had asked, what if an owner owns like 5 properties in the condominium? Will that have an effect?
That's different. So I thought you were asking about, yes. So if they own over 10%,
there.
So you got to be super careful with small units or small complexes that have 10 units, and a guy owns 2 of them. Well, exactly. He owns over 10% at that point. And I had one go south on me on the West Coast, and it was because their budget was off by like $1,000, and it wasn't one of our products. I had to do a jumbo, and it ended up being a Chase product, they wouldn't do it. So, but yeah, budgets are a bigger deal with condos. So Eric will tell you the first thing.
The reserves. That's right. The first thing you asked me. How much are in reserves?
I hear so many times that the lenders, oh, the client's great. We got an approved loan. If it's a condo, first thing we do is get that condo approved and sniff out any problems with it, because I hear so many times, like 2 days before closing, oh, the condo's not approved for other lenders, and I'm like, man, that does not happen with me. No way.
Yeah, do your homework.
Yep.
That's right.
I've seen that as well, Tim. We just had one fall apart on us right before I left on vacation, which is where I'm at right now. I'm in Naples, but there was one thing I wanted to ask you, Tim, regarding the Homes for Heroes. I know it's something that started on July 1st, and it's a big deal for all of us here, right? We all love what we do. We're part of Real Broker. We're having a great time with this awesome company. But I know that everybody knows or is related to or has been with or works for, first responders, teachers, nurses, firefighters. I think Aimee's related. Somebody in your family, Aimee, is in the...
My husband.
There you go. So, Tim, can you give us a little bit more insight on how the Homes for Heroes or the Hometown Heroes program actually works here in Florida?
Well, right. So the one we have is the Florida Hometown Heroes, and basically what it is it's the old. I don't know if you guys have been in the business long enough. They used to have a bond program where you did 80%,
right,
and then they did a 20% bond, and then if you kept it for X amount of years, then it would go. You'd either owe some or it would go away. And so I think it works like every year it gets a little less and a little less. So that's basically what it is. And I will tell you that it's so brand new. I was like, they're going to ask me that question. I pulled it up today because it's that new. And I started reading about it. So here's what I'll tell you about. It hasn't been a big deal because of the market, because nobody wants to take loans or take offers like that.
It's a lot of red tape there. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and what I'll say from a standpoint of, I know loans, I know conventional FHA, VA, I know them, and there's like 80 different of these products. I can't take the time to learn, it's just, there's no way that you don't have the mental capacity. So there's a lot of red tape, like you say. So on a case-by-case basis, yes, they're out there. And the one thing I will tell you about them is it doesn't, like, if you work for a hospital and you're a coder for a hospital or you're a janitor for a hospital, I think it works. It's not just, the people, saving people and burning buildings and military. It's just anybody that works for those type of schools, and so so it's out there, and yes, it's new, and I think it's going to be a player. It's usually an 80-20. The last thing I read was 600 credit scores. What I'll say with that is, be careful with it. Use your local lender that knows it before you start putting stuff under contract. Make sure they know what they're doing.
Good
Thanks
advice.
for that.
And we probably will start seeing a little bit more of that as the market shifts here through the summer, as it's becoming, even though it's still a seller's market, it's getting a lot more favorable for the buyers that are out there.
Well, let's segue into the VA FHA buyer situation too, because in particular, I think one of the challenges too for the first-time home buyer, because they are typically at a lower price point, FHA is great until you deal with a realtor on the other side that doesn't understand it or doesn't want their seller to take it for whatever reason. And same with VA loans. And that's where a great lender comes into play. And I've leveraged my lenders in the past and said, can you please have a conversation with the listing agent or write an email so that the seller is very comfortable with these loans, because usually the other side doesn't know how to explain it. So they just, because they don't understand it, they just tell their seller, no, that's not a great loan. VA loans are fantastic. It's just, there's just not enough information that's passed along through the pipeline so that the seller and that agent are educated. That's where we as agents do have a teaching moment. And I know that happened to me a few years ago. And once we got the seller on board, we were good to go, you know?
Right. So here's what I'll tell you guys about that. And y'all need to leverage that as much as you can now. So I recently had that deal that I was telling you about was a VA loan, and the people buying his house, they couldn't buy it. I literally called the listing agent. I go, this guy did nothing wrong. He is a disabled veteran, and so you need to let your seller know that all we're asking for is more time. He's going to put his house on the market and sell it. I go, and you can have her call me, and I'll put a full on guilt trip. You talk about you love the military. Well, no, let's prove it. This guy's got stuff in pods moving it down here. He had nothing to do with the fact this house didn't sell. I had a clear to close loan on this part, and the only condition was he sell his house up there. They fell through up there, and so we got an extension on it. The lady never called me, but I'm willing. But make sure you have your local lender. If I can do loans in the whole state of Florida, but I have no problem calling people. And I'll tell you guys that I've been doing loans here enough, but it don't affect you guys. But if I know the listing agent on a transaction, or my office knows the listing agent, I make a phone call when my buyer makes an offer on something, because I don't make money until they close, and they have to be under contract to close.
Yes, they do.
I call them and go, hey, get my buyers better than all the other ones.
So to your point of the VA, I had a buyer coming down from Virginia and was initially going to get a rental until I asked the proper questions and said, what is it about? Talk to me more. Why are we moving forward with a rental? If you don't have the money for the down payment, I completely understand, but you are going in for the VA, and we kind of talked it through. Now, when I peeled off the layers, her biggest question was, well, what's the limit on a VA, right? Hector knows where I'm going with this one. And I said, there is no limit. And she said, but there is. And I said, no, but there's not. And so once we peeled away those layers and she understood that, no, there is no limit, you can actually go up to a jumbo with a VA, which most people don't know. And a lot of agents are completely unaware of that. And so we ended up getting her into a purchase instead of a rental, which was fantastic. But all it took was just peeling off those layers to understand, look, I ask a lot of questions, like, hey, if you don't have the money, I completely understand. And I don't want to, pry on that. But if you do have the money, let's figure out a solution for this, because I would prefer you to pay your own mortgage than somebody else's. And because you have a VA, this is fantastic. You don't have to pay. There's very little that you have to pay upfront. So let's have that discussion. So I think that's a misconception with a lot of people of what that limit is, and there is none.
Right. So here's so VA 100% to $1 million, and then over to 1.5 million, it goes to 95%.
Okay.
95% of what's over $1 million. You follow?
Right.
So.
Yep.
It's a great loan for people. And here's the deal. So VA loans aren't the problem. The challenge with VA loans is there's a funding fee. And if you've used it a couple times, it gets pretty expensive. But there's no mortgage insurance. And so it works itself out. And if you got no money, it doesn't matter. But most of the guys I'm doing VA loans for now have a VA disability, because they've all been in the war for the last 20 years.
Right.
And once they got a VA disability, I think it's 10%, no funding fee.
No funding fee.
So it's a great loan, and do them all day. Yep. I just did one like 6 months ago for like $900,000 in Valkyria, of all places, Eric.
You would have never thought that. Yeah.
But no, the big old like 8 acres, and no, so you guys, you advertise that, because you can go up to $1 million at 100% financing with VA loans. Absolutely.
So for our audience, Hector, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Hector.
Thank you, Aimee. And Tim, you're right on. I mean, I have a disability. I have a 10% disability for tinnitus in my right ear. And when I went to get my pre-approval, I was approved for just under $1 million. And that's what they said. They said, you don't have a funding fee. This is something that changed that a lot of people don't know about. But, we're all professionals in the game here. We're all doing what we do. And I really appreciate that you brought that to light and you explained that, the funding fee goes away when you're at least 10% disabled. I'm a little bit above 10%. And so there is no funding fee. So it makes that loan a lot more attractive for me, because the funding fee can be quite large when the numbers go up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what Michele said earlier, I mean, I can't remember which one, but you're talking about, so you got to educate the sellers. If people are not wanting to do VA loans or FHA loans, they don't understand that they're no big deal anymore. Like that's 20 something years ago when I first got in the business, 25 years ago, VA loans and I'm like, there's a couple things, and they've even streamlined those. The termite inspection, you got to get a termite, which you should get a termite inspection. Buy a house in Florida, goodness gracious. And I'm closing on one, and the VA appraised. And the other challenge with VA is we don't get to pick the appraiser, which we don't get to pick the appraiser on any loans, but we have a panel of appraisers on conventional FHA. It's like 7 rolling appraisers that we know who they are. In VA, we have no choice. And they showed some repairs, some paint, and some, less than $200. They did it. It was no big deal. So and when you have agents that are uneducated, that's where you guys are going to be the cream of the crop when it comes in, and be able to. Unfortunately for you guys, you know how to do it, that you end up doing all the work.
Yeah.
But hopefully when we do all the work, it kind of sinks in.
Exactly.
I'm a big fan of paying it forward. And if you've got to take them by the hand and walk them through it to make sure it's done right, not only are you helping them and doing a little bit of training, but you're also taking care of your seller to make certain that their needs are taken care of. And that's really what we were hired to do.
Exactly.
Sure. Absolutely.
Really quick, Susan James, thank you very much for tuning in. She's here in Merritt Island, Florida. Looks like she's got a house to sell up in Massachusetts. Let us know if you need some help with that. I'm sure one of us have a connection up in Massachusetts. We'd be able to help you with it, Susan. That was a good conversation about the VA loan, especially about if they were partially with being able to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of them. I'll tell you, Tim, I'll be honest with you. I find it as it's my duty to help them, just like I help everybody else, and maybe do a little more because I've been there, right? I know what that's like. So I think it's great to be able to put marry people in homes. Like Aimee says, don't marry the rate, but marry the home. So for me, it's just so important. It really is.
That's another conversation to have with your clients now that rates are up. So think about this. So I talk to people all the time, like, you buy a house, you don't buy an interest rate. The rate is what it is. And so, like you guys were discussing, Michele was discussing before, if you don't get in the game now, I mean, I see these young kids. There was a whole bunch of millennials, like in 2009 on, like 5 years, were like, we're going to be renting the rest of our life. We don't want to buy anything. And then they changed their mind. And then now there's a generation behind them buying houses that are competing with. And so all of a sudden it's a double whammy. I'm like, no, it's one of the greatest wealth building things you can do. And I will never deny that. You need to get a house, and like, it doesn't have to be the house your mom and dad had after they worked for 20 years either. It can be a 1-bedroom condo, and you just get skin in the game.
And more than likely, the place that they're renting is not that great of a place anyway. At least this way, they're building the equity. They're putting money towards their mortgage and their future, and it's a much better spot. And, if they're really smart about it, that first home or condo that they buy is their first rental property when they move on to the next property too.
Yeah. I think that really needs to be stressed to these new buyers about that. Just get into the game. And I think we've had in the past a misconception of that. And no, we need to wait for that perfect place, but the perfect place is the one that you own and that you're paying your own mortgage, not somebody else's. And so,
what do you think the hold up is on why they're not doing it? Do they think that bubble is going to pop? What do you say to them when they say we're waiting for the crash or the bubble to pop?
They're either saying we're waiting for the crash, we're waiting for interest rates to come down, what's the other that we hear? I think also foreclosures, but I also think really and truly that they've been taught that it has to be this perfect home that they're moving into. They haven't been taught the finance part of it and how that equity builds and how money generates rather than, it sitting in the bank account, put it into the house. So then you're sitting on an investment. So I don't think that they've been educated enough in regards to that. And I know at a younger age, I wish that I had been taught that, right? And so if I had to do things all over again, I'd buy a duplex and live in one side of it and, so on and so forth. Right. But again, I really and truly don't think that our younger age, or maybe it's my generation, was taught enough about money. People never talked about money. It was never a thing. I know it wasn't in my household. So, and as far as these millennials, I don't know. I think some of them are being taught that, but it's still not enough. It's not enough.
The one thing I'll tell you guys, and Eric can maybe agree with me, that make sure, like, especially when you're dealing with buyers, that your mortgage lender is someone that can counsel them. Because I don't tell people stuff that's not true. I believe in home buying. Like in 2009, 2010, I didn't. And I had my worst years ever because I couldn't tell people, like, I might want to wait a little, or whatever the year was. But now I still think it's a good market. I think for first-time home buyers and young people, I think it's about to be a really good market for them. And so make sure you're teaming up with people to give good counsel so you're not on your own. Because I'll talk to people all the time and, like, I believe you should buy a house. I don't believe you should maybe buy that house because it's a little out of your range, but you should at least get your foot in the door.
Yes.
I know with younger couples, I always like when they're buying that first house or maybe they're moving into the area. I talk about making this the rental property. We'll look at what their payment is. Just because the lender says you can afford this payment doesn't mean you should really go for it. Find the house that has that payment that's a little more comfortable for you. And also the rents in the area kind of cover your mortgage expenses so that if you do decide to move on and get the next house, you'll have that one and it have some type of cash flow to it.
That's right.
My speech to young people like that you'll have like a couple and one's pushing, the top ceiling on what they get approved for. And I'm like, look, I'm running stuff through, automated underwriting. Your payment's going to be X amount and I can get you approved for that. But after we close, I don't help you with that payment anymore. You're on your own at that point. And it's kind of a sobering thought. I'm like, but don't put, if you're not comfortable with that payment, there's nobody helping you at that point. Yeah. You're on your own. And so usually they're like, oh, that's, but some push it and some don't,
Yeah.
I've seen, I'm actually kind of impressed with most of the millennials that don't press it too much. They don't push the ceiling on what they qualify for till recently when they've had to because the market's kind of,
but even then, I've seen them be pretty conservative. They've been thinking about that payment and knowing that it's a 30-year commitment, and they're doing the math to make certain it falls in line with their budget and the what ifs too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, I like the fact that you're honest with them from the onset, because what you don't want is 5 years from now they're underwater for whatever reason, or they're not even breaking even on their initial investment. They're at a point where they're going to walk away from this property, from this home that they saw it and they fell in love with it. And now it's become kind of like a nightmare, like a house of horror or something. So I really appreciate the fact that you're honest. I know Michele, Eric, and Aimee, I know we're honest with our clients, and I tell them, listen, this is what it's going to be. And if you're not careful and you push that ceiling too high, you're going to reach a point where you're going to have a problem down the road. So I'd rather gain a friend and lose a client than lie to them.
One of the things that I've always done, whether they're first-time home buyers or not, is what are you paying in rent? And what's your comfort zone as far as how much more can you afford? Oh, we're paying $2,000. We're okay with $2,300. Okay. Hey, favorite lender, can you back them into the mortgage amount that they really can afford and are comfortable with? That's how I do it.
Yeah.
And
it's a great idea, Michele.
Yes.
Yeah, when we do it that way, you have you don't have the disappointment. Okay, because sometimes these pre-approvals that come out are just ridiculous, and then they figure out, oh well, I can't afford this payment with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or if they're moving into a condo. And the other thing too is they have to be aware that a lot of these condos, which we talked about on a previous episode, are going to have substantial assessments coming up, and they're going to have reserve problems coming up. And who's going to be on the hook for that? Well, everybody in the building. So if we can get them to be a little below what their top number is and back them into it, then they're, I think, set up for success.
Right. So one of my things that I preach, I guess preach is a good word, is margin. You got to create margin in your life, and I try to, especially the young ones, is like, guys, you got to have a little margin. You can't push for everything. Time, money, life, you need margin. And so, like exactly what Michele said, I had this is years ago, and single mom, just got divorced, and I could have got her qualified for this house, but I wasn't comfortable with it. I'm like, it was an older house. I'm like, well, this lender says that I can do it. And I'm like, I am not. The AC goes out and you're done. Like, you're done. Like, she had no. I'm like, do you have family in town? She's on her own, and I ended up not doing the loan and felt better. I don't know what happened, but I just didn't feel like. I'm like, the other lender was offering it. It wasn't like I turned her down. I was just like, let them do it, because I want to sleep at night, because she was pushing I mean, it was way over the top. So, some FHA loans, they'll go to 55 back end ratio. And so somebody makes, think about that for a second. Someone makes $60,000 a year. 55 is over 2,500, payments 2,500, and they go buy a car after they close. There's no margin there. So, yep.
It's nice to be able to sleep at night by doing the right thing.
Exactly.
And with that, I'd say let's work on some final thoughts, because we're approaching the 1 hour mark here. I do appreciate everybody's time here this evening.
Thank you.
Tim, some final thoughts on what you think, what's happening with the market, some things we can do to maybe help you with your business.
I do loans in the state of Florida. I've done them all over. I did my brother's loan in Santa Rosa Beach. I did my niece's up there. So I'm licensed in the state of Florida. I've been doing loans for 25 years. As far as the market, I think we're okay. There's not going to be a pop, I think it's going to deflate a little bit, but you guys should have a positive attitude about it and just embrace the good stuff that's going to happen out of it, because we're going to get people that weren't able to buy houses now able to buy houses. And I appreciate you guys having me here today, and thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you were able to make it.
Thank you.
Aimee, you want some final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, buyers, by all means, don't get scared. I want to walk you off that ledge right now. Have a conversation with one of us. Let's peel back some of those layers that you have questions about, get you into the game, get you into building equity and building that generational wealth for you and your family. And it's super important, and we're all here to help you. And that would be my personal closing thoughts there for all those buyers. So we're here for you.
Awesome. Hector, what do you got for us?
Guys, I said it, I think 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to repeat it again. I think we're in probably one of the most healthiest and balanced markets that I've seen. Buyers and sellers. Michele is in Boca Raton. Eric Larkin is in Cocoa Beach. Aimee is in Palm Beach. I've got you down in Miami and the Upper Keys. Tim can do your loan. This is what we're here about. We're here to make the sellers and buyers, put everybody together. There you go. So Boca on the screen right now, right? Living the MIA sunshine, moved to Cocoa Beach. So, I think we're doing a great job, and I think that it's such a healthy and balanced market. I'm really happy to be a part of this. And I want to thank everybody for being here, especially Eric for putting this on. Great show, guys.
Thank you.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome. One last thing I was going to share. Sellers, if you get a decent offer, let's make it work. This is not the market from 2 months, 3 months, 4 months ago. Listen to your agents. If your agent says, this is a great offer, let's not complicate this. Do you want to move? Let's go. And agents, don't be afraid to have that hard conversation with your sellers. They are looking at us for that information.
That's right.
That's awesome. And that's true. And all I've got to say is this market is adjusting. I don't see it really crash and burning. I just see a little adjustments happening until the buyers get used to accepting a 5% interest rate instead of a 2.5% or 3% interest rate. Those were great while they were here, but I don't really see that coming back anytime soon. And more often than not, if you go back the last 2 years at any gap in time, house values are generally higher that day than they were 2 years ago. So if you're wondering if now's the right time to make that move, talk to a lender like Tim so they can go through explain to you what the process is, what you can afford, what your payment would be to see if it makes sense. And if it makes sense, go for it. If it doesn't quite make sense just yet, continue renting, work on saving that money and cleaning up your credit because your time's going to come.
That's right. Well said.
Cool. All right, everybody. Well, thank you, everybody who's joined in, whether it's live or on the replay. I appreciate it very much. And until next time, we'll see you next week on Florida Live.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See y'all.